is Joe Lacob willing to pay an absurd tax bill, a tax bill that he has previously stated he wouldn't. Mostly to Tim Kawakami, he said it multiple times. So if Joe Lacob won't go over the 400, 450, 500 million range, then they just got to get off a contract. Forget like, oh, you're helping the supporting cast. What can you turn Jordan Poole into? Kind of just got to get off of a Jordan Poole type money, because that is where the tax spike comes from. Jordan Poole made 3.9 million this season. It's going up to about 27. So that's the big question. Now, I mean, we can get into the internal dynamics of all of that, what you could maybe get for him, and he's at his lowest value, but I just need to know, like, is Joe Lacob willing to go to like 450, 500 million? Because if he's not, then they got to get off money.
Well, and to pound that point, Jordan's really the only candidate, right? In terms of like the only, vehicle, through which they can get off money contract wise. There's, if Wiggins is part of this, if Draymond's part of this, if Clay's part of this, obviously Steph's part of this. There's nobody else that's making big money. Kevon Looney's 8-9 million. They're not moving off Kevon. He's part of the core. So this is, am I wrong? This is a Jordan Poole question.
Yeah, I mean, you can rope Kuminga into that, really, and maybe their situations kind of collide, and if you're talking like package type deals. But
right,
yeah,
just the money component. The relief comes from moving Jordan Poole. And so let's go ahead and go down that road. I did not see all of the media from. Did he talk yesterday? Is that when it was?
he talked. It was the day after the game. It was like 11 a.m. the day after the game. So sorry, my
Right.
days are running together. I think they played Friday night, if that's right. So he would have talked Saturday morning.
Right. And the tone, I mean, I saw a handful of headlines about how, Jordan wasted no time, kind of, making the headlines again when it comes to the Draymond situation. But tell me exactly what he had to say. I did read, Logan Murdoch had a good piece at the Ringer about the Warriors situation, had some perspective from those guys. Jordan in that story essentially talked about how it was all business with he and Draymond, but it was clearly, still pretty icy.
Yeah, I
And
mean that's also, obviously what he said his first press conference after the
yeah,
event. It's at any point when he's been pushed on it this season, which is, became rare because it was like he's not diving into it.
right.
It was kind of his messaging, like, look, he's professional. He has no problem being a coworker. I mean, you've been in that locker room. They sit locker mates basically, and Draymond, certainly by early to middle of the season, was back to being his normal boisterous Draymond Green self, and he'd be sitting there doing it with Jordan Poole 3 feet away. So I think Poole clearly kept it professional all season. I don't think he said anything that's like overly, revealing. He in his exit interview was a little bit defiant about the idea that, like, oh, that was the reason that there was a failure this season. His thing was like, look, we made it to the second round, we made it to the playoffs. It didn't just like completely spiral out of control. Like if Lonnie Walker doesn't go off in game 4, they might win that series. Like that's essentially, and I know that's kind of been somewhat of a messaging behind the scenes. It's like this wasn't some disaster finish. Like they were at least somewhat close to the conference
Yeah.
final.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and I guess what the only thing that surprised me about what Jordan had to say was he did share the sentiment that, like you just kind of alluded to, okay, the Warriors, we got to the second round, had a lot of good moments. He even highlighted that he had a couple of career highs this season, and essentially said that he's got no reason to believe that that he's not still part of the plan. And it feels like there might be a disconnect there, and we don't have clarity yet. But it feels like, I don't get the sense that he's going to be walking into Joe Lacob's office and saying, I'm tired of coming off the bench. I'm tired of being Draymond's teammate. I'm tired of being here. It doesn't seem like he's, heading for the exits personally, if it was up to him.
yeah, my sense is like the his fluctuating role was kind of more of the problem at times this season. And I mean, he kind of he hints at that publicly a lot more than he hints at the Draymond thing about like, oh, it's an opportunity. I can only do so much in this amount of minutes, like those type of quotes.
Right.
And that, like, if Draymond does come back and they're keeping this core together, like the blockage remains ahead of him. He would remain kind of like six man. Certain nights, particularly playoff level nights, where you need like locked in defense, There'd be nights that he is only 18 minutes or something like that. That is not where he views himself at this point of his career. I have made the comparison to a past situation I covered, Reggie Jackson. It did not spiral like the Reggie Jackson Oklahoma City fourth year situation, which included a trade for Enes Kanter at the deadline. And Sam, I know you were around at times of that.
SPG baby,
But
SPG.
SPG. But it's similar in the sense of like Reggie Jackson got to a point, not that, hey, I hate Oklahoma City, I don't want to be in Oklahoma City, I don't want to win with you guys in the future, but his thought was like, look, I'm a starting point guard, like
Right.
that means 34 minutes a night, that means 19 shots a night, that means everything that comes with it. And the starting job was not there for Reggie Jackson. And I feel that a little bit similarly with the Poole situation where, I think by year 4, year 5, he's about to be entering year 5. He's getting the money that he wanted. That would normally come with increased role, increased opportunity. But if Klay Thompson at 43 million and is still around next year, he's not starting. He's coming off the bench. So that is a question. But again, the other thing is like, I would say, and you kind of alluded to, I do get a feeling from the Warriors that they're like, look, he still averaged 20 points per game this season. He still does stuff offensively that they really need beyond Steph Curry, which is like extra playmaking, extra creation. Hey, how about just replacing Steph Curry during the regular season? Steph Curry got hurt 2 to 3 times this year. He missed 20-something games. Like, he's going to miss games. Clay's going to miss games. They need that during the regular season. So they're like, do we trade him when he's at his lowest value in however long?